In today's video, I've got a special guest to talk about the Twin Cities real estate market, the numbers, and how that affects your buying power. So stay tuned. Welcome to Minneapolis Living. I'm Nick Sundahl with Akedah Homes of Keller Williams Classic Realty Northwest. Today's guest is Jennifer Butcher. She's not only one of my favorite people in the industry, she's one of my favorite loan officers, and her insights are second to none. But before we get there, please hit the subscribe button. When you're there, ring the bell. That way you're alerted each time I upload new content each week. And if you're looking for any of the data that we're going to provide for you today, go into the description. It'll be right there for you. Now let's get to it. Love to thank you for joining me today. This is actually going to be quite a bit of fun, I think, especially since it's our kind of first time doing this. But, I wanted to kind of jump into it and tackle, the topics. Not only we want to talk about the market, just a brief overview for those of you watching out there. The numbers are boring, but we don't want to dive too deep into that. But that being said, give you an idea of what that looks like here in the Twin Cities and the greater metro area. And then we want, obviously, we'll have you speak to the lender side of it and what we're seeing there.
Absolutely.
Well, the Twin Cities market is not just Minneapolis and St. Paul, as you know. We've got I think North Star MLS runs 17 counties in terms of the greater metro area. So it's pretty big, and it covers quite a few different markets. Because obviously once you get outside of Hennepin and Ramsey County, it gets a little bit more rural. So as of right now, or as it stands, the median sale price is at $298,000. And that's interesting because it's not just single family homes. That includes townhouses and condos and farmland and new construction, as well as pre-owned or pre-owned homes. And then that also includes all types of sales, which include traditional sales and, of course, bank owned and things like that nature. So it's interesting to see the prices continue to rise at a rate that we thought were going to, plateau, for lack of a better term. Right? In the month of September, we saw about a 1% growth in terms of new listings. And that's a nice little bounce back. That typically that's pretty standard in terms of an uptick from August to September. Historically, the 1% is lower than what we'd like to see because pending sales are up 2%, which means homes are moving faster than they're getting listed. And then and then closed sales are up 1.7%. So we're selling and pending faster than we're listing, which leaves us with low inventory. And of course, that means higher prices.
Story of the real estate market in 2020.
Right. and it's been that for at least 5, if not longer. So our market is incredibly strong for sellers, but there is some good news, and that comes on your end.
Right. So the overall update, and I think this kind of grasps what we're about to say, is the overall mortgage industry is up over 80% from last year. 80%. That's just crazy. And the reason being low interest rates, right? Interest rates are at record lows. And I feel like I've been on repeat of that the last few years. We're at record lows. We're at record lows again. You just keep thinking they can't possibly go lower. And here we are. Basically, everybody who's bought a house in the last 3, 4, 5 years is refinancing right now. So rates are low, refinances are hot, and we're especially busy right now on the refinance end because of some change in regulation. So just to kind of throw this out there for those watching who might already own a house, basically Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have implemented a 0.5% additional fee. It's like an adverse market fee that's going to go into effect on all refinances that are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So not government loans like FHA or USDA or VA, but conventional financing. It was
Okay.
supposed to go into effect September 1st, which left the mortgage industry scrambling, and there was a lot of pushback. And so now December 1st, it's all loans received to them by December 1st. So basically refinances have to close by mid-November to not have that impact. And that impact just means either your costs are higher or your rate is going to be a little bit higher. Rates are still going to be low, but there's this last minute push to try to get those in, right? So it's really, really busy, obviously, on the refinance side. But what does that mean on the purchase side? Low rates mean lower mortgage payments, which means more buying power, right? So I have customers who last year were looking and getting frustrated because the prices are a little bit higher on homes and couldn't quite find what they were looking for. But now interest rates are lower, all of a sudden their buying power is higher. So just to give people an example, I kind of crunched a little bit of numbers. So for example, last year, if somebody had a budget, let's say of $2,000 per month, including taxes, insurance, everything, they wanted a max mortgage payment of $2,000, right? At about a 4% interest rate, where we were at about this time last year, that would have given them roughly, again, depending on taxes and insurance, about a $328,000 mortgage. Drop that rate by a percentage point with where they are at now, today, and now all of a sudden that $2,000 a month budget gets you a $370,000+ mortgage. That's almost $45,000 more in buying power that you have now than you just did a year ago, which is obviously, you know, a huge thing. You can get more. And that really, I feel like that really sticks with the trend of, and maybe you can comment on this, but first-time home buyers, right? First-time home buyers are kind of skipping that starter home for a couple of reasons. A, there's low inventory, especially in that market, but also because they have that buying power. They can buy more for the same amount that they could afford. So they're kind of skipping that entry level and going straight to what would have normally been a second home and a longer-term home because they can afford it now. So that's kind of an interesting trend that's been happening as well.
If I may interject, actually, it's awesome that you mentioned this, because that buying power is really at the crux of what I think you and I, when we're talking to our clients, is so important, right? Yeah. So you're saying an additional $45,000 that they could afford, right? That percentage is massive. It's well over, 12% almost. Yeah. So the growth in median sale price of a property in the last year is 7.5%.
Sure.
So we're not just talking about an apples to apples comparison where things are growing at the same rate, right? Your buying power is actually outpacing the growth in property values.
Yeah.
So you can buy even more home. It's not just a more expensive home. Yep. You're literally being able to buy more house for the same amount of monthly budget, let alone more house for just the purchase price alone. So I think that's really a really important and distinct difference than just saying, oh, rates are great, but prices are up too. So it's a wash. It's actually not a wash from a year ago.
Right. Yeah, good point. The other thing I'm having, and you can hop in on here too, but the other point I want to make about what's kind of going on in the industry. So you mentioned it in your numbers, right? We're low inventory, and we know low inventory means multiple offers usually on most on most price points. So let's talk about budget for a second, and really, really how important it is, especially in today's market, to know your budget and what that means. Because I feel like I'm having the same conversation with my buyers, like basically every day. So when we talk to someone, we kind of find, you find that max budget, whether it's that $2,000 a month or whatever your max monthly payment is that you want to be at. And then, okay, what does that mean in terms of a purchase price? So let's just use, again, for example, that means a $300,000 purchase price. So should you be looking at a $300,000 house then? Probably not, and it's important, I think, to have this conversation and set the right expectations with people ahead of time, because are you going to need seller paid closing costs? If you do, we have to subtract that out from your max. Mm-hmm. And then you on the real estate side can guide them more on, okay, depending on the area that you're looking, yes, homes are going for over list and maybe approximately by this much. And so if you're going to be expected to go $10,000 over list, guess what? You have to subtract that from your max. So that $300,000 max now actually might be a $280,000 max, because with closing costs and overbid or whatever, you're going to end up being at that 300. And it saves, I think, a lot of people time and heartache a little bit. If you go in looking at such a price house and then all of a sudden you have to bump it down, it's like a disappointment, right? They're not the same. So I think that's really important for people to understand, is know your budget going in so that we can set the proper price point to save time and just, save yourself a little bit of disappointment in looking at the wrong houses from the get-go. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And herein lies some of what the business is all about too. I mean, not that we're not here necessarily to plug, but having, when, your loan officer or your broker and your real estate agent are on a good level of communication, where those budgetary needs and concerns are well established, it keeps, then on my end, when we're looking at houses, we know that, in certain areas, it's going to be higher tax, higher tax liability, or maybe there's an HOA involved, or perhaps, the little things that we have to keep an eye on just to make sure they're not outside the range of what has been already kind of baked into the budget, as it were. So I think that's a really good point, that when we talk about budgetary needs of the client and what they're going to expect out there, especially in such a tight inventory market, more often than not, they are going to be looking at multiples, especially in ranges of, say, under 400.
Right.
If that's the case, then they're definitely going to be looking at it. And it's obviously something we need to keep our eyes open for. Right.
And I think the next question people are going to ask, or I know because I get this phone call, is they're about to make that offer, and okay, we have to go over list. And for some people, that's just like a punch in the gut, right? Nobody likes to I always use the example, my husband will shop at like 3 different grocery stores just to get the best price on whatever it is. I'm not that patient, but it's like when you're talking about a house and like that huge of a purchase, it's hard. It's right. You feel like you're overpaying for that property. And I think that we talked about saving this topic for the next video, so people have to stay tuned. But in terms of, okay, how much over do we have to go to get the property to win the bid? And how much is too much? Are we overpaying for that house? And what does that look like? So I think that might be a good lead in for next time, to keep people safe.
And we can certainly, I would like to put more information or spend more time on that topic, because I think that it's an important one to know. And there, just right off the bat, there's no one answer.
Right.
And so that's why we need to have a little bit more detailed discussion on that one.
Yeah.
But again, this is where having somebody, a professional such as yourself, and I'd like to believe professionals such as myself,
absolutely,
that is going to guide, that it's going to be able to, hash that out for the client in a way that, where they're successful and they reach their goals. Right.
Right.
So
awesome.
Terrific.
This was fun, Nick. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm excited to do future videos, and just, my passion is just educating people. So it's really great to be able to bring both sides of the real estate aspect to people and kind of let them know what's going on.
Jennifer, thank you. And I appreciate all the time and all the great information. I hope this finds our viewers in a way, or helps our viewers decide what to do and how to do it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that collaboration video with one of my favorite loan officers in the industry, Jen Butcher. You can find her contact info also in the description. But with this video, if you'd hit that like button, leave a comment, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions about the real estate market and would like to start the conversation, please reach out. You can call, text, email, hit me up on social media, but really doesn't matter to me. This is Minneapolis Living. I really appreciate you watching. Please stay safe, please stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.